Thank you, Allison. Thank you so much, Pastor Jim and Pastor Paul, and thank all of you. As I pulled into the church driveway, I just started crying. I haven't cried in a talk in the last year. This might be the first one, so I apologize, but I greatly appreciate your support. Greatly appreciate your support. And I have to start by saying I used to start by saying I'm not a professional speaker or politician, or I'm not. I've gotten, kind of good at the talking, but I'm just a mom. I'm just a nice Jewish girl who grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, who decided to move to Israel almost 14 years ago. And I didn't grow up really religiously Jewish, but I was and am very Zionist. And I was working in Chicago. I had a great job and a nice car and a condo in Lincoln Park. And I just said, I have to go live in Israel. I found myself more and more defending Israel. I would, I had a date. I have to tell you the story. So I thought, I'm going to find a nice Jewish guy. And I went on a date. And I said to him, have you ever been to Israel? And he said, I wouldn't support that country. And I put money down for my drink and said, have a nice life. I got up and I left. Then I realized it's not just good enough to find a Jew. You got to find a Jew who supports Israel, or someone who supports Israel. So I just went there. I was single and 34, and I quit my job and sold my car and rented out my condo and said, I just have to live there. So my 10th trip to Israel was the one that I made Aliyah, which literally means going up, rising up, when you move to Israel. So I met my husband after I had lived there, and he has a PhD and was working in Sderot. You guys saw some of that in Pastor Jim's video of Sderot. He has a PhD in engineering. He was working in Sderot. He was actually living in Zikim. He grew up in Ashkelon. And I was living in Tel Aviv, because you don't meet so many people who say, I'm going to move to the Gaza envelope. Like, not so many Americans do that. So I moved to Tel Aviv, met my now husband, and we were dating long distance. When you live in Israel and it's the size of, Lake Michigan, it's very long distance to go from Zikim to Tel Aviv. It's 45 whole minutes. So we had this long distance relationship. And then after we got engaged, he said, I have a house in Ashkelon that's 4 rooms for what you're paying for this little crappy 1-bedroom in Tel Aviv. And we moved to Ashkelon, and like Allison said, we lived through the Protective Edge War. And it used to be that Hamas would send rockets to the border communities, and they've gotten bolder and bolder over the years, and rockets have also started going to Ashkelon, and I will show you if you can see the map, and you see Gaza there on the left. The red dot is Kibbutz Zikim, and Ashkelon is the closest city just north of Zikim. So we lived in Ashkelon. We had about 30 seconds to get to the safe room during that war when there were rockets. And my husband came home after my daughter was about 6 months old, and he said, they're building in the Harchava of Zikim. Harchava means the extension. So we don't have enough time to go into it, but you don't have to be a kibbutz member to be living in the kibbutz now. You can build a home, drive in and out, work at your regular job, but enjoy, the living in a small, close-knit community. And at first I thought, I'm not living in Kibbutz Zikim. It's right on the border of Gaza. And then I thought, it's a 10-minute drive in the car from Ashkelon. What's the difference? And we built a beautiful home. This is one shot of our kibbutz. This is our front yard. We built our house from scratch. Now, in my past life, when I lived here, I worked in the merchandise mart. This house was, when you say blood, sweat, and tears, it was literally blood, sweat, and tears. This was my joy, building this home from scratch. All the foliage and everything you see here is only about 5 years old. We put in all this bougainvillea. This is our backyard. And I show these pictures because I get a lot of, why would you live on the Gaza border? Even before the 7th, I got those questions. And first of all, it's Israel. So I'm going to live in Israel. And they can do their thing over there. This is Israel. What's the difference if I live? But we could afford to build a gorgeous house because when you live within a certain distance of Gaza, Israel gives you the incentive of not having to pay a property tax, which is a huge amount. So we could actually afford to build this gorgeous home where other places in Israel, frankly, we couldn't afford it. And my husband's work was nearby, his family's in Ashkelon, and it's gorgeous. Keep this picture in mind for a few minutes from now in my talk. This is our backyard, and this is a view looking down into our yard. I'm standing on what is the kibbutz security road, and you can see our house is set down. We're kind of on a hill. So there's a security road that goes all around the kibbutz. We have one security guy, and it's his job. At night he drives around and checks the perimeter. So on the other side of this road is a barbed wired fence, and then the main road. But even when I say main road, it's not a main road. There's no stop signs or street lights because you saw from the map, we live right near the beach. So the main road goes to the army base, which if you continue then goes to the beach. And this is probably the last time my girls were at the beach 2 summers ago. And this is just a gorgeous sunset over our kibbutz. So I'm going to give you kind of the brief rundown of what we experienced on the 7th. And if you want to hear my full story, I have links to that later. This didn't start October 7th. Terror did not start on October 7th for us in the South. We have rocket days. Growing up in Chicago, we had snow days. Living in the South, you have rocket days. It's normal. My daughter's bedroom doubles as our mamad, the bomb shelter, and every home in the South needs to have one. And it looks like a regular room, except that the window has, on the other side of the glass pane, you have big metal, sliding doors that close, like gung, that really close when the neighbors are being feisty, so you close those windows. It has a secure door, that should defend against rockets and shrapnel, but you can also put in a regular bedroom door. So my girls sleep in this room in their bunk bed, and the metal door just always stays open, and when they come in and out, they close the regular door. And this is just like how we live, and you just know if you're gonna live in this beautiful community and have, a petting zoo and beautiful daycares and beautiful scenery and cows and community, and the price you're going to pay is you live near the Gaza border and you're going to get rockets now and then. So we had rockets now and then. It started getting more and more frequent. We were evacuated 3 Mays ago, 3.5 years ago. I mean, I was telling someone and they said, "What war?" You don't hear about it on the news here. It wasn't even that highly covered in the news in Israel because if it just rockets just go to the Gaza border, it's like, If it goes to Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, you might hear about it. So it wasn't even that big of a thing in Israel, but we were evacuated 3 Mays ago when a war started, and we went to load up my car, my children, who at the time were like 4 and 6. Oops, we're not taking my car. My back windshield was blown out from shrapnel. Piece of shrapnel this big blew out the whole back windshield. Now in America, your car insurance might cover earthquakes. Ours covers rocket damage, so we didn't pay for it. The government did, but we couldn't take my car. We had to get the car fixed. And we were evacuated to a kibbutz in the north where we were for 2 weeks until the war ended. And when we go back to our yard, some people pick weeds, we pick up shrapnel. And you clean up the shrapnel. In our kibbutz, he recently passed away. So I'm the only American in the kibbutz, and every now and then I'm thinking, why am I here with my girl? So this was something we were considering, but we put it on the back burner. So 2 years go by, we have rockets, new things start happening, new terror that also you're not really going to hear about in the media. But Hamas realized that the direction of the wind blows from the sea and kind of from Gaza into Israel, so they started sending incendiary balloons over, bouquets of balloons with explosive devices attached to them. They have burned thousands and thousands of acres. I mean, they're so stupid. It's the crops that we send in to them to eat, but okay. They've burned thousands and thousands of our farmland, wildlife. Where's PETA? Once they attached a bouquet of balloons to an eagle and flew him over. Where's PETA? Nobody, no. I had to teach my children to stay away from balloons. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, 4 and a 6-year-old, and I'm teaching them not to go near balloons. One time we were in the kibbutz, and that's what you do for parties. You get balloons. A balloon started, and I slammed on the brakes in my car, and I didn't want to pass it. I mean, so now we're not going near balloons. I actually have photos of Mickey Mouse balloons that landed on our beach in Zikim, and we had to tell kids not to go to the beach, don't go near the balloons. Luckily, I don't think anyone died from this, but it caused a lot of damage and fires. And it became a regular thing a few summers ago that I would be driving my girls around. Here's a fire, there's a fire. And my sweet little girls would say in Hebrew, "Mom, someone's doing a barbecue?" And I would just say, "I guess so, honey," because I don't want to teach them, no, we have these bad guys over the border that. Then something else started happening. And if you guys would have heard my first talk, which now was about 11 months ago, I would have said, and I don't know why they were doing this, but now I can tell you why. Something else started happening, I would say about 2 or 3 years ago. We would wake up on a Friday with this horrible burning smell, and it was Hamas, our kibbutz is about 1.5 miles from the border, and Hamas would burn piles of tires on their side, but at the border fence. It's toxic. Where are the environmental agencies? I don't think that's legal. Piles and piles of tires. Not only does it just smell disgusting, it had this black smoky soot that you could go out to our yard and I want to cook, and I picked the basil and I'm like, we're not eating this. And I'd say to my husband, why do we let them do this? He doesn't have any military intelligence. He's just Israeli and I want him to have all the answers. And he's like, I don't know, but what can we do about it? It's on their side. Our soldiers are all along the fence, but they can't say, hey, stop burning tires on your side. So this is something we just suffered from, every Friday for the last few years. Only, I would say, last maybe December or January, we learned why they were doing that. Because when you burn piles of black tires, you get black smoke as thick as pea soup. And the IDF could not see that they were burying explosives along the border fence in preparation for October 7th. Years ago. And we didn't know, we just continued our life. We just thought we're smelling smoke. So terror is not new to us. But I didn't think that October 6th, 2023 was the last night I'm gonna sleep in my bed, the last night I'm gonna tuck my children into their bed, surrounded by their stuffed animals. My parents were actually visiting. I grew up in Highland Park. My parents were visiting us for the holiday Sukkot. We all went to sleep that night. My girls went to sleep in their bomb shelter room. My husband and I are in the bedroom next door. And when we built our house, we built it from scratch. We built the basement as a bomb shelter, all reinforced, in preparation for wars, because we thought, well, we won't have to evacuate. We'll just kind of live in the basement. Nice bathroom, a little bit of plumbing for kitchen. So my parents were in the bathroom. 6:30, there's a huge boom. And I just rolled over to go back to sleep because I'm used to that. Now, by the time we hear the boom, it's too late to run to the mamad, the safe room, because it means that the rocket, we hope, didn't land, but it either landed or the Iron Dome intercepted it. But it's too late to get up and run. We have 5 to 8 seconds. 5 to 8 seconds. If you look at a map from Homeland Security, a map of Israel, they'll show you, rings around Gaza that go into the rest of the country, and that's how they divide it up. And they'll say that our ring, the closest one to Gaza, gets 15 seconds. That sounds like a dream. I've never had 15 seconds. So we have already learned to recognize the sound of the dome shooting to get the rocket, which is like, and after we hear the, we know, like half a second later, we're going to hear Tseva Adom, code red, code red. However, where we moved in the kibbutz, it's not loud enough. If the kettle's boiling, if a kid is crying, if the TV's on, you're not going to hear it. So we really go by our phone app, and we see, oh, we're having an alert, or we hear the boom. So I rolled over to go back to sleep, and then it happened again, and we said, okay, let's, we'll go into the girls' room. And when they were really little, they would sleep through it, but now they won't. So they started to stir, and we told them, it's okay, just go back to sleep, it's just rockets. I mean, let that sink in. That's how we'd live. It's just booms, just rockets, go back to sleep. And they really kept going, and the girls weren't going to go back to sleep. So I don't have time to give you all the details. I invite you to, I'll explain later how you can see all the details, but I'm going to give you kind of the rundown. Basically, a few hours into it, we realized it's going to be a rocket day. And we stayed in the safe room, and maybe 2 hours into it, we heard do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I mean, we heard a machine gun, and my husband and I looked at each other, what the heck? And luckily, my girls were now watching a movie. We brought a TV into the mamad, and they didn't hear it, but we knew this isn't normal. We didn't know what was exactly going on. We knew something is not normal. We know what gunfire sounds like. We live near the army base, but this was not in the distance. So I'll tell you in a minute what we did live through. Then soon after that, my husband showed me the video that you saw a blip of, the white truck in Sderot of Hamas terrorists just driving through the city. And we started getting messages from our kibbutz security that communities have been infiltrated by ground, lock up the house, stay in your safe room, turn off all the electricity so they don't think you're home. We told my parents, just stay in the basement. My dad came up, what's going on? Just stay in the basement. And my husband went out and, closed all of the vertical blinds. They're electric, but you can get in if you want to. We've locked ourselves out of the house before, and you just pick them up. And if you left your sliding doors open, like everyone does in the kibbutz, you just crawl in. It's not going to keep terrorists out. It's just going to make it dark, so maybe they don't think anyone's home. My husband closed them all, and he took out kitchen knives because my husband was never in the reserves. His engineering degree, it's not a miksoa, it's not a profession that you have to go back to the reserves. So we don't have a gun. He took out kitchen knives. And for the next few hours, we're in the safe room not really knowing what's happening. We lost all cell phone connectivity. We lost all internet, so we don't have the news. We don't have the warnings. We have no idea what's happening. In hindsight, it's probably better we didn't know. So, because we all know now, but from our perspective, I'll tell you what happened. So we put the girls to sleep, and we said we're going to sleep on the floor of the mamad, which is, again, this is typical. We've done this before. But that night, right after we put the girls to sleep, 3 Shabak members came to our door. Shabak is the division of the Israeli army, the intelligence, strategic division, kind of like Fauda-ish. And 3 of them come to our door in black, bulletproof, everything with guns, and my husband answers, and they said, do you guys want to evacuate? And we were like, no, because we didn't know what we really just survived. We thought we're safer in the house, and we're going to evacuate to go where? So the next morning, the army came and said, okay, now you have an orderly place to evacuate to. Your community is going to Jerusalem. You have an hour to pack and get out if you want to evacuate. Now it's Saturday, right? October 7th happened on a Saturday. My parents were supposed to fly back here on Sunday. We knew that wasn't happening. We told them, pack up and come with us. I'm very grateful I didn't see it, but apparently as we evacuated, there's a rural road from the kibbutz to the main highway, and there were just dead bodies of terrorists along the road that I'm very grateful my little daughters didn't see, and I didn't see. I was just in mama bear fight or flight, just get out, get out. I wasn't looking at the scenery. We made a beeline to the main road. As we're going to the main road, we're going on a rural road, no stoplights, no stop signs, just farms. and there's a stopped car in the road, and I swerve to get around the car, and my girls swerve to get around, or my husband in front of me swerves to go around the car, and I just quickly look, and there's a huge bullet hole in the front windshield of this stopped car. I felt like I was in a Fauda episode, you know? And I learned later it was a car that the terrorists had stolen from the workers from, we have a lot of workers from Thailand who come to Israel. Some of them were murdered, by the way. And it was one of their cars that the terrorists had stolen right outside our kibbutz, and they were making their way to the next kibbutz to try to infiltrate. And luckily the IDF eliminated them, pulled their body to the side of the road, and there hadn't been time for cleanup yet. So that car was stuck in the road. I was really in a war zone, you know? When I got to the highway, my phone just ding, 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 ding. I mean, I'm on WhatsApp because I'm Israeli. That's what we do. I had hundreds of messages. My sister was 8 months pregnant in Chicago, hysterical, thinking that we were all slaughtered with my parents, her parents, that we had all been kidnapped, we had all been slaughtered or burned alive. I still did not know what we had just survived. I didn't know what had happened at the Nova Festival or in Be'eri or Nirim or the other. I didn't know. And when we got to the hotel in Jerusalem, I started learning what we just survived. And our specific story in our kibbutz doesn't really get told because no one died. But I also invite you to watch the story of what our kibbutz really went through. There's a very famous Israeli reporter who lives in our kibbutz. He was a reporter of the South. He's been promoted. Now he's a big reporter in a big Israeli news channel. And he did a report and went back to the Zikim beach and interviewed our security. And I took a few hours, a few weeks ago, to translate it into English myself because I thought it was so important to share here in America. It was on the Israeli news, but you're not going to see it here. So it's not word for word, but I think I did a pretty good job. And I can send you a link to that. But the short version of what we had just survived is that 50 terrorists came by boat to infiltrate our beaches on that day. And you can hear the recorded conversation of our soldiers, our Chayal Ayam, like the IDF Marine Division, you know, you hear, and they're kids, you guys, they're kids. I say soldiers. Let's remember they're 18, 19, 20 years old. And you hear them saying, what are these boats? I see boats. Oh my God, they're terrorists. They're Palestinians. They're and you hear it, and you hear they're not prepared for this. It was the Sabbath. It was a holiday. They managed to kill 41 of the 50 terrorists before they infiltrated our beach, but 9 did infiltrate. They slaughtered everyone they saw on our beach. There were 3 young 18-year-old boys who had gone fishing in the morning, friends with a girl in our kibbutz who was desperately waiting to hear from them all day. And finally, her phone rang, and when she picked it up, it was photos of their slaughtered bodies that Hamas had sent to all the contacts in their telephone. Chased them in. This is typical. This isn't the only story like this. Chased them into the bathroom where they hid for cover, slaughtered them, and then picked up their phone and sent it. So people say, do you know anyone who died? It's 1 degree of separation. We all know someone who died. My daughter's friends' grandparents were slaughtered in Be'eri. But the only reason I'm standing here today is because our security kept these terrorists out. So 9 of the terrorists, after slaughtering everyone in the beach, they continued to our army base, which wasn't prepared. No one was prepared for this. I mean, I won't get into it, but there were young army staff on the Gaza border who did call that day and warn the higher up something fishy's going, and they were poo-pooed. And we saw what happened to those girls. So our army base wasn't quite ready, and there was a big shootout there. Hamas stole a truck and headed towards our kibbutz. And this is like all in the report. You guys can watch later if you want, the news report. You hear the conversation, and the army called our security guy. We have 1 guy in our kibbutz. So what happened was, within a, 3-5 minute period, our security guy reached out to the men in the reserves in our kibbutz, all hands on deck. And we had a staff of 6 or 8 men who were in the reserves, or it's just volunteers with guns. My 9-year-old daughter's friend's father, these are fathers, these are just regular, Israelis. We had a small staff who went to protect us. And I'm gonna show you, let me see. This is from the video. I have a few just stills I kind of took from the video, but here's the terrorists coming up through the beach. And you see these cement things that they're standing behind. And remember I said, keep this picture in mind. So when I told you about the road right above, they're standing on that road. So this is right above our house. This is about 30, 40 meters away from my daughter's bedroom window where we were all hiding when we heard da-da-da-da-da. And when we heard the gunfire, what it was is that the terrorists who stole the truck came down the main road I told you about, and our security guys here first thought, it's the IDF, it's the Israeli army. Wow, they got here really fast. And they were like gonna greet them. And then Hamas pulled out RPGs and heavy artillery and threw a grenade at a 35-year-old father of 3 who was on our security staff here. And our men hid in these little bunkers, and there's no roof, you see. There's only 3 walls. It comes up to here. We have these all over the kibbutz in case, there's rockets and shrapnel and you can kind of protect yourself, not fully. It's totally not set up for a shootout with terrorists, So our guys ducked in these. Hamas threw a grenade. He tells the whole story. You guys could hear the whole story. But basically, this is why I'm here today. Because our security team managed to kill 5 of the 9 terrorists. The other 4 ran off into the woods. And as we know, or you might not know, but there were terrorists hiding in the woods around Israel for weeks, I guess until they starved to death or until the IDF found them. This was insane. And this was not just Hamas terrorists. People say, what about the innocent, Gazans? I'm sure there's a few of them, not very many. There's video, there's footage, there's proof that this was this on-foot infiltration, mass murdering, slaughtering. I know you guys all know, but there's things we haven't heard and we don't get to see. I moderate a Facebook group called Life on the Border with Gaza, Things Most People Don't Know But Should. I'm going to share that later. We have 14,000 members. We had this group way before October 7th. But one of our admins, who's really taken over the page since October 7th, he's a retired reporter. He's privy to information and videos and footage that the public is not. Hamas held down a woman who was pregnant in her 2nd trimester, cut out the fetus, beheaded it in front of her, and then beheaded her. You don't hear this on the news here. You're not going to hear this. You're not going to see it. So I know I'm kind of preaching to the crowd. I know you guys know this and you're already supportive, but just like Pastor Jim said, you got to bear witness. I'm sure you each know 100 people who know 100 people who know 100 people, and there are people denying that this happened. Israel made it up. This didn't happen. These are freedom fighters. These are not freedom fighters. I do have a few graphic images that I typically say ages 15 or 16 and above, but you can use your judgment. The proof that this happened is this is Arabic, not Hebrew. This was on the Hamas TikTok. They are proud of it. There's just a few of these, and I'll tell you when they're over. Now, remember I told you that all of the safe rooms have that door. They're not meant for ground infiltration. They're meant for shrapnel. They don't lock. They don't lock. Maybe now in the future they're going to lock. This is a child's bedroom. A few more. 3-month-old baby shot in the head. This is from the Nova Festival. I'm going to talk about this organization for a second at the end, Zaka. Now, there's a rule in Judaism that you need to try to bury bodies with as much of the body parts as you can. And there were so many burned civilians that they couldn't get out of the car. Israel has Israel has buried dozens of cars because they couldn't even separate the people from the cars. These are babies. And this is a CT scan of a mother and baby cuddling while they were burned alive. And so, like I said, this wasn't just terrorists. Here's regular Palestinian civilians who killed the IDF soldier in this tank, broke through, and are celebrating. Here they're passing out candy the day after October 7th. I don't think I have to show this. When I do this talk for audiences that are like not sure, or when I'm on college campuses, I have more proof. I have more videos and proof. This is not the audience that needs all the videos and the proof. So I'm going to go to the end. This is a Gazan who's screaming that he's trying to get aid, but Hamas is shooting all of the civilians who are trying to get to the aid. But you're not going to see this on CNN. This one I am going to show because I'm just so grateful that you guys are all here and supportive of Israel and supportive of what's happening. I have to say, I've been here for almost a year. I haven't lived in America in 13 years. And I remember anti-Semitism and doubters, and I moved to Israel like right after the flotilla was happening. Remember the peace activists that were on the boat with supplies headed to Gaza, but really they were terrorists? And I remember the misinformation and the bias against Israel, but I have to say, being here for the last year, I don't know what is more heartbreaking to me, the ignorance and bias and the reaction of the rest of the world, or the massacres that the terrorists are actually doing. Because I expect it from them. We always knew Hezbollah was going to wake up and attack one day. We know Iran hates us. We know Hamas. But what's the excuse for the rest of the world? So I just want to show this quick clip, and then I'm going to get into a little bit how we can help. But I don't know what university this is. It doesn't even matter. But this is what's going on with all of the pro-Palestine. They don't even know what they're pro. They don't even know. And it's our jobs. That's why I'm here today, and my girls are with my parents. It's our jobs to spread the word, to educate, and this is scary to me.
Doing a quick petition to help Hamas free Palestine. You're all in? Mm-hmm. All right. Oh yeah, you're in? Easily. I just have to read terms and conditions just so you know what you're signing. Okay. By supporting Hamas freeing Palestine, you agree to the following. You agree that every Jew, Christian, and non-Muslim in the world must be slaughtered.
I don't know about that one.
You endorse making homosexuality punishable by jail or death?
Oh, no, I don't.
You don't agree with that? You believe Iran should use Palestinians as puppets to spread radical jihad and destroy the West? No?
No.
I'm glad I read the terms and agreements. You support strict Sharia law, which bans women from showing their knees, hair, playing sports in public, not being able to travel without a man's permission.
I'm sorry.
Not interested? Oh, okay. You want a terrorist group that beheads babies and rapes girls to replace only democracy in the Middle East?
Not sure that's something to support.
So if I sign, I agree with this.
Yes.
Baby, no.
No? Okay.
Oh no, thank you.
No.
I don't support any of these two things that you just read to me, so then
Okay.
I won't be able to sign this then.
That's fair. No, thanks for not signing. Yeah, all right.
I mean, they don't even know what they're signing. Anyway, I could talk for days. I can't. I have to stop. But I'm very grateful, again, that you guys are here. I always get the question, what can we do? And I'm sure the church has a long list of all the things that can be done. I wanted to share just very briefly a few of the things that I personally wanted to share. So I'm going to leave this up. The very simple free thing you could do, you don't even need to give money, is just join these Facebook groups. Join the 14,000 of us that are just learning all the facts and hearing from us who live on the border. Now we have a northern border that we're also worried about. So even though the group is still called Life on the Gaza Border, we have a lot of input about what's going on in the north. Dave, the reporter I told you about, is updating all day long. I have also started my own Facebook group, Aliyah to a kibbutz on the Gaza border and back, an unfiltered blog where you can follow what's going on with my family and I, and also follow some updates out of Israel that you will not see on the media here. So anyway, you guys are already doing the first thing you can do is just being here, and I'm incredibly grateful to the church and incredibly grateful to all of you, and I think I talked way past my time. So the last thing I'm going to say is if you're interested in any of the videos or anything that I talked about or that I have, I put some business cards, now I have a business card for doing this, on the way out, but I have a QR code and my Facebook if you want to join and get some more videos and information. So thank you guys, and Am Yisrael Chai. We're not going anywhere. So thank you.